Wendy Chamberlain.
I and my Liberal Democrat colleagues welcome this legislation, which will finally allow police restitution orders to be brought forward in Scotland. And as other members have said, I believe this is long overdue. Restitution orders will, as other members have explained, make a fine payable if somebody is convicted of abusing or assaulting a police officer, and that these fines will finance an expansion of the support officers receive by helping to finance specialist non-NHS support for injured police officers. And the debate today relates to the fact that Westminster approval is required to permit such restitution orders to be claimed from benefits payable. So this is unequivocally a positive step forward for police officers and adds to the victim surcharge finally introduced last year. It's a sad fact that many police officers are injured on duty, and assaults on police officers are often the cause of those injuries. Members will know I come from a family of police officers. Myself, my father, my husband have all served, and I have other family members currently serving in Police Scotland. All of us were assaulted during our police careers. My husband was knocked unconscious during the policing of a football match. My father was headbutted by a prisoner in the police cells, which required stitches. My own most vivid memory is from early in my police career, within months of leaving initial training at Police College in Tullyallen, in fact, and relates to attending a call relating to a report of domestic dispute in a high-rise block of flats in Edinburgh. On arrival at the landing in question, my tutor and I could hear a loud argument and decided to call for additional officers to make their way to support us in case they were required. I am very glad that we did so. The door was answered by a man who, after telling us where to go, was then attacked by his girlfriend but from behind with a knife. A toddler was visible at the back of the flat hallway. My colleague managed to batten the knife from the woman's grasp, and in anger, both of them then turned on us and a violent struggle ensued. Luckily for us, colleagues came quickly and both were arrested. The man in particular struggled violently throughout the arrest, attempting to spit at all the officers and claiming that he was HIV positive. It then transpired he'd been responsible for an assault and robbery nearby earlier in that evening. Now, other than bruising, my colleague and I were unharmed, but it was a salutary lesson to me in being prepared for any eventuality and for being responsive to events. Police officers, like other key workers during the current COVID-19 pandemic, are leaving their homes and families every day to carry out vital work, and without knowing what that day will bring them. Restitution orders are not simply about a financial penalty for those who assault officers in the course of their duties, but about showing police officers that the work they do for us on behalf of society is valued. Now more than ever, we are relying on the police, who are doing a very difficult job in strange times. They're enforcing new emergency laws, keeping us safe from coronavirus, alongside tackling other types of crime. Other crimes, such as domestic abuse, are now more difficult to prevent and detect, and the police are therefore working on more innovative ways to encourage reporting of offending. I want to pay tribute to my former colleagues in the police service who are doing so much to get us through this crisis, and I welcome the positive impact which the restitution orders will have on support for police officers. However, and I don't believe that this is politicising, I believe it's asking legitimate questions. While the end result of restitution orders is indeed positive, I am incredibly disappointed to see that these measures are being introduced far later than they were ever envisaged. It's a matter of regret that this order is being brought forward nearly 7 years after it was initially announced by the Scottish Government. The Victim and Witnesses Scotland Act was passed by the Scottish Parliament in 2013. It received royal assent in January 2014. This legislation was brought forward by the then Cabinet Secretary for Justice in Scotland and the now Honourable Member for East Lothian, who has already spoken in this debate, and the measures were welcomed at the time by the Scottish Police Federation. Yet, for a very long time, two of the flagship features of this Act have been missing. All that was needed was a minor statutory instrument to be passed in the UK Parliament, i.e. what we are debating today. But for whatever reason, the Scottish Government has chosen not to bring plans forward to make these features operational until this time. The victim surcharge was finally established last year, and now, almost 7 years on, restitution orders are being brought before this Parliament. This was a flagship policy of the Scottish Government, yet despite legislating, police officers are still waiting for support. There's clearly an unanswered question about why this has taken such a huge amount of time. As I mentioned, this proposal won the backing of the Scottish Parliament in the days of the Honourable Member for East Lothian's tenure as the Scottish Cabinet Secretary for Justice. At that time, Police Scotland, the amalgamation of the previous 8 Scottish forces, was just a few months old. So Stephen House was Chief Constable and Vic Emery was Chair of the SPA. Since then, we've had another 2 Justice Secretaries in Scotland, 2 more Chief Constables and 3 more SPA chairs. Clearly, these have been challenging times, and I note the turmoil of the SPA in particular. When the most recent chair, Susan Deacon, resigned in 2019, she stated that governance and accountability arrangements for the police service in Scotland were fundamentally flawed, and a permanent replacement for the role of chair is yet to be appointed. But that does not excuse the extraordinary length of this delay. Someone who was undertaking their initial training at the Scottish Police College when the then Justice Secretary was championing this scheme and heard the promises made will now be in the 7th year of their police service. There are huge questions to be answered by the Scottish Government as to why this delay has occurred. Indeed, my Scottish Liberal Democrat colleagues at Holyrood have been asking this question consistently since the Act in 2014 was passed. Each time they were assured that preparatory work was ongoing. It gives the sense of an idea, very laudable, but with no thought or plan on how best to implement and no real impetus to prioritise, despite the complexities that other members have referred to. But I hope that the passing of this legislation will be swiftly followed by the introduction of the scheme. Where is the money raised by the orders going to go to exactly? At the time, the then Justice Secretary said the Police Benevolent Fund, as well as the Scottish Police Treatment Centre Ardor, which has previously benefited members of my own family, and yes, I did contribute to myself financially, were going to benefit. Is this still the case? How much are restitution orders estimated to raise every year so that we can establish potentially how much money police support services have missed out on over the last 6 years? And as other members have referred to, there were more than 1,600 assaults on police officers between April and June 2019, a 5-year high. These orders might go some way to acting as a deterrent. So we have to ask the question of how many officers would have benefited from additional special support if restitution orders had been in place. There's been a human cost, sadly, to this delay. And this isn't just about individual officers, but to the public as well. How many officers have been forced to retire due to ill health as a consequence of an assault on duty? We're losing good people from the police service. How can we quantify the effect of this lack of prioritisation upon police wellbeing and morale? These are questions that I wholly expect my Scottish Parliament colleagues to be pressing the Scottish Government on. The significance of the support which the orders will provide to injured police officers has been overshadowed, sadly, by the 7-year wait for this scheme. I hope the Minister will agree that it is imperative that the Scottish Government now implement the restitution orders as quickly as possible. I thank all members for their positive contributions and would say that police officers cannot afford to wait any longer. Thank you.